Hello, Bhargavi. Hopefully it's starting to get into the more interesting stuff for you now, Bhargavi.
I'm a unique person. I have different set of problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how we get to them.
Sure.
Do you want to tell me what they are while we're waiting?
I've been here in New Zealand for 13 years.
Yep.
And I'm a citizen. And most of the things that you were talking about are true, and I appreciate the way you put them. And I do, like when I talk to people, we talk about weekends or weather or the small talk just to kick off. I've been doing that for a while. I think the main problem for me is that I'm trying to get into a different field.
Right.
And the amount of break I have got is actually annoying. And
right.
Yeah, I've got other problems which are adding up as well. I mean, I've been at home for 2 years now.
Right.
Because I've had a couple of contracts here and there, but yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see whether I will ask you specific questions to make sure that you are using these techniques. Because I think that they should apply in any scenario, but if you're already using them as they are, maybe something else is needed. Okay, so it looks like we've got everyone back again. And the recording is happening. Okay, so the whole thing here is you're trying to build trust. In order to build trust, we need to give people a sequence of trust-rewarding experiences. The experiences that I think are safe and easy in this environment is you ask for their advice, you respect their advice, which is a trust-rewarding experience, you take their advice, which is a trust-rewarding experience, and then you tell them how it got on and you give them credit for what they've contributed, which is a trust-rewarding experience. So you commit to taking the advice and reporting back to them, then you take the advice and you report back to them, and you repeat the cycle with the person that they referred you to, remembering that they referred you to someone else who could, who would be able to give you advice on how best you can get work. So Bhargavi was just mentioning that she's sort of changing career path, as it were, and that being difficult. So it's a great opportunity to be able to ask people for advice, because you do have quite a unique question. Hello, Imran. Look as if you're muted. So there could be a quite good opportunity here to say, this is a difficulty that I have. I'm really committed to this new career path, but I'm finding it really difficult to transition to it because I've got a lot of experience in other areas, and I'm keen to hear what your advice is. Maybe you should mute it again. Okay. Is that you, Imran?
Yes, Gary. Yeah. I just joined. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you should just mute it again. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No problem. Okay. Great. So here's the solution detail. So what we want you to do is to plug into their network instead of their direct opportunities. We want you to look for advice rather than a job. If they do have an opportunity, they will raise it.
Gary, sorry to interrupt. Your screen is not shared. I'm not sure if you are shared.
Okay, thank you. I should have been more careful about that. There we go. Share screen. There it is. Okay, so you can all see that now?
Yes.
Yep, good. So I just spoke on these last two subjects of commit to taking their advice and reporting back to them, commit to meeting with the people that they recommend and reporting back to them. Then you do those things, and those are trust rewarding experiences for them. Then you do the same thing with the next person, and then report back to the first referral to say, I did meet with John, and he was really helpful, and you are dead right, he had some good advice to give me. He's also referred me to these other people. I'm going to do that. I will let you know how I get on. And now you've made another promise that other people don't normally fulfill, and then you keep on fulfilling that. So I had a neighbor who's happy to talk to any of you about it if you want to. Bhargav has already spoken to her. I think that she said that she had 42 people in her network within 1 month and had 2 job offers within the first month. And she started her job within 6 weeks. So here's the solution detail. We wanted to plug into their network instead of their direct opportunities, because we know that once we've built trust and once they know what we can do, if they do have an opportunity for us, they will give it to us. We don't need to hit them on the opportunities. We need to try and key into their network. And the way to do that is to look for advice rather than a job, because Kiwis prefer to give advice and feel uncomfortable interviewing someone for a job if they don't have one. Then we deliberately build trust, and this is the method. So the first thing is to commit to your time duration and that you're asking for advice, not pitching for a sale. Let's say that you have someone called Mike. You're not trying to get a job. You're trying to get advice on how to get a job when you speak to Mike. Then you make sure that you come at the right time. You only spend the 20 minutes or half an hour that you promised, and you don't ask for a job. You just ask for advice on a job. So that becomes trust rewarding experience number 1. They trusted you that you would do all these things, and now you've done it. It's only the first block, but it's the first step. Then the next thing is to, this is actually comes from another presentation. So let me just get rid of this one because it's not correct. Just hang on a sec while I just change that. Here we go. Sorry about this. Right, there we go. So tell them what sort of job you're looking for and what hurdles you face. And I've still got that there. Maybe you show them what things you have to offer, but I'm not going to put it in. Then what you do is you ask them what they would do in your situation, reminding them that you come from a different country, you have these experiences, etc. And ask them how would they go about it, what companies would they approach, what roles within those companies would they talk to, and always bring it back to if you were in my shoes. Now, people love giving advice, especially Kiwis, and I strongly suggest you have a book with you and you write down the notes carefully, and you'll see why in a minute. But one of the most convincing ways of showing them that you're taking them seriously and valuing the ideas is to write them down. Also, that means that you're taking those ideas seriously and you're going to act on them, and it brings them to be more committed to making that work. So for example, if they say the best way to go about it is to talk to someone like this person and approach it in this way, and you commit to doing that, they are then going to do everything they can to influence that other person to give you what you're after. So E here is you ask who else they know who would be prepared to give you advice. And I've found that they often will say, here's the guy's name. Actually, I've got his phone number here. Actually, why don't I just phone him right away? And a number of times from a sales point of view, I've had them phoning a mate of theirs saying, I've just got this guy, Gary, here. He's got really good things to offer and help. I think it would be really worth you two having a chat, and he'll just give me the phone, or she'll just give me the phone and say, yeah, just speak to Mike quickly. I'll check my email. And I found that happen quite a lot. So they're nearly always prepared to give you a few names, or I'll say, what companies would you approach? Do you know anyone in that company? Maybe they can tell me who the right person is, and they'll give you names and that sort of thing, if they are convinced that you're going to ask for advice but not ask for a job. Then obviously very crucial, H, to be very grateful for the insights, and huge for you to say, you've given me so much valuable stuff, but here are 2 or 3 things that have made the best impression on me. It's just a way of taking their ideas seriously. So that then gives you your, this here was your trust rewarding experience number 2. This is trust rewarding experience number 3. Now it's crucial at the end, after you've thanked them for everything and mentioned the couple that made the most impact, to say, I'm going to take your advice and meet with John and Mary and Sarah, and I'm going to do these things that you said. And critically, you need to say, and I'll let you know how I get on. You're trying to make a commitment, especially one that they suspect you won't follow through on. Because a lot of people say that, but they never do it. But of course, you're going to do it because you've deliberately set it up to create this trust relationship. So then, of course, you then need to send them an email reiterating the above, and I've said that it's on your return, but it really needs to be on the following day. You need to have a sleep between the verbal commitment and the email commitment. A whole lot of cognitive reasons for doing that. That then provides your trust rewarding experience number 4. They are now moving to the point of thinking, this is a really nice guy, or this is a really nice girl, and they don't really know why, and it's because you've connected with them, you've promised to do things that a lot of other people don't do, and you've done them. You're starting to go to stand above everyone else. Then, of course, you go to the first person or the first few people that he's referred you to, and you repeat exactly the same sequence with that person. You can get back to Mike, your first guy, and say, thanks so much. I've made appointments with John and Mary and Sarah, and they're all happy to tell me, I'm so grateful. I've never been able to talk to them if you hadn't referred me to them. Then you go and meet with John, Mary, and Sarah, and you follow the cycle with them. And then you get back to Mike and you say, you're dead right. John was great. This is what he did. I couldn't meet with Sarah because she had a sick child that day. But you know, Mary's meeting's tomorrow. I'll let you know how I get on, which then creates your next cycle of promising to do things and following up on them. And of course, you just keep doing that. And all of the people that you know already, you can roll this through. You can go back to them and say, I'm keen to get some advice on taking this thing to the next step. Could I buy you a coffee, or could I come and have a chat to you? Just 20 minutes. I'm just wanting your advice on how to go about it and who else could give me advice. But even people that you know can't offer you a job, you can go and get advice from them and get them to refer you to people, and that referral comes with trust embedded in it. Like if someone had to come to you and ask, who can I go to get advice on doing this particular thing, you would make sure that you were happy to refer them before you referred them. Otherwise, you could mess up that relationship with your client or your colleague or something. So the next step is to, in your calendar, schedule regular updates. So if you do get a job, obviously you let them know and you tell them how much they contributed, even if it was just to give you confidence in how you spoke to other people. Let them know about how you got the job. Then after the first month, you send everyone an email saying, thank you so much for your help. My first month's gone very well, and this is what I'm feeling about the whole situation. And then 3 months later, you give them another update to let them know. And every time you say, this is what's happened. I'm looking forward to the next few months. I'll let you know how I get on. So you're making a commitment, and then you're following up on the commitment. So for those of you that are women, and for those of you that have female partners, this is particularly valuable if you're an immigrant, because we underestimate how little we have in common in the country that we've immigrated to. I'm going to move this here. In your home country, it's very unlikely that you will meet someone that doesn't know where you went to school, what university you went to, doesn't have a family member that knows someone or met someone or went to that university or holidayed in that place. But if you come to New Zealand, like if you're from India, the people in New Zealand don't know anything about the Indian cities or universities. They don't know anything about it. So it's very difficult to establish network in comparison to how easy it is if you are native of the country. So we really need to deliberately build these sort of networks so that we've got a support structure, especially if we are women and are going to have a baby, because all of a sudden you don't have people in the company that you're going to meet every day. You've got to really work hard to build that network. Like Bhargavi, for example, has got a massive network. But for the rest of you, this is a critical thing for your success in a new country, is to build a network. Any questions or comments on that?
All good, Gary.
Okay, good. Thanks, Imran. Okay, so now I just want to talk about the CV. You'll probably know a lot of these things, but the question to ask is, have you done it in your CV? So the first thing is definitely at the beginning to use the standard CV format. Every country and every industry in every country has a different sort of format. So you've probably done this already by using the recruitment agency type template. That gives you a feel for what companies are expecting. Don't fall into the trap of saying, yeah, that's what the recruitment agency wants, but people really want the sort of CV that I used to prepare in my home country. Often doesn't work. Don't forget, particularly if you're coming from an ex-colonial type country or something like that, use of English is a lot more formal in those countries and in many first world countries than it is in New Zealand. So just make sure that the language that you're using in your CV isn't too formal. Now this is the big one. We often forget that the companies that we worked for in our home country are unknown companies in New Zealand. So when we write down this company name that we're so proud of, they have no idea what that's about, and it means nothing. So it's really worthwhile writing some brief notes against the city or the company. It's a city of this number of people that's focused on this sort of thing. This is how big the company was. This is how many employees the company had. This is how many New Zealand dollars it trades a year, that sort of thing. And you can say it's like Fonterra, but bigger, and it focuses on this and this. Or it's like Food Town, but instead of 140 branches, it has 2007 branches, whatever it might be. Try and hook it in so that people know what you're talking about. Also realize that people may not be familiar with the roles that you had. So you really need to find the Kiwi name for that equivalent, or have a brief description that says, this is what I had to do, and these are the people that I had. And if you had 427 people, don't put that down, because Kiwis won't employ you for a job that doesn't have staff or only has 12 staff if you had 420. Very good idea to say what people thought or said about you, because it has a huge impact on people's decision making. One of the mistakes that people that come to New Zealand make, and in fact a lot of Kiwis make it as well, is that they claim that they are very honest and that they're very hardworking and that sort of thing. My view is that if you need to claim that you are honest, I suspect that you may not be. If you had to claim that you're hardworking, I suspect that you might not be. It's a thing I think that happens at a cogs-high level. But if you say that you think it is so important that people know they can trust each other, that is giving a view of what you think is important. It's not claiming that you've got it. And so there are lots of ways in which you can do this. But if you look at all the things that you think people want to employ people for, find a creative way of communicating that you have it. Don't say that you have it, because it'll automatically make people think that you're lying. Especially in New Zealand, because of the lifestyle thing, you need to focus on getting on with the people first and letting the technical skills and the capability happen second. For those of you that haven't gone through the recruitment process in New Zealand, what often happens is you have a meeting, let's say that it's not through a recruitment agency, but directly with a company, because that's what this approach is about. Oh, I forgot to mention, I don't know what the figures are, but it's something over 85% of jobs are awarded because of contacts rather than advertisements. It's something over 85% of jobs that are awarded. Even if they do go through an advertising process, they are awarded to people that they have a network link with rather than people that they don't. So it's more who you know than what you know, which is related to this one. So in New Zealand, let's say you're interviewing directly with a company. So my first corporate job at Telstra Clear, I met with the head of marketing, got on really well with him. He thought that I'd be a good person. He then brought me in to meet with other people in the team. Wasn't interested in the technical skills side. It was just trying to find out whether I'm their kind of people. So I met with the team leaders because I was going to be a team leader. Then he brought me in a third interview where I met with the people that were going to be reporting to me. And only then did they start talking about the technical things and the capabilities and what I was going to be able to do. That's 3 or 4 interviews that are all about, are you going to get on with the people before they get to the technical stuff? Now, in some environments, the technical stuff's the only thing they're interested in. But in the majority of New Zealand environments, they're more interested on getting on. The technical stuff's obviously something that they need to get right, but don't make the mistake of trying to sell your technical skills. Instead, try and convince them that you're a good person to work with. Any comments on that?
All good, Gary. Thanks.
No.
Great. Good. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now we're going on to be more employable. I'll go through this quite quickly. As we said, people buy emotionally and justify logically. If you act as if you're someone that has that role already, for example, if you can get them to have a discussion about how we're going to make things move faster in their process, if you're a BA, and talk about how we can solve the BA type problems with them, they get the experience of problem solving with them. So don't be saying, give me a chance to talk about that. Just start talking about that. Engage as if you're already them. you're really on board and you're discussing what needs to happen with that role. Obviously, it's not hard to realize how superior that is to be jumping and saying, pick me, to instead just be the person that assumes that it's going to be me and let's just talk about how we're going to do it. The next one is that obviously you need to understand what the prerequisites are. The biggest thing in New Zealand is, are you our kind of people? The next thing is that they need to be able to work with you because we're all here for lifestyle reasons. It's not as much about value as about getting on. Are you a good team player? You can't say, I'm a great team player. You have to say, in my experience, things fall over if people work independently. People really need to know how to work together as a team. And the big secret is for people to understand what their role is and that we have regular opportunities to discuss things as a team and arrive at solutions together as a team. You haven't said that you're a great team player. You've just told them that you know exactly what it's about. Obviously, you need to be respectful and not be focused on impressing them because Kiwis don't like tryhards. Ways of demonstrating your capability in a way that doesn't threaten. Then you need to find ways of being able to. Kiwis really like people that underpromise and overdeliver, but in an interview, the only opportunity that they get is in the interview. So you have to find ways of being able to show them that what you're presenting is a humble view, but that there's a whole lot more under the hood, and there's a whole lot that one can do on that, but I won't get into it now. As I said before, be confident but not arrogant. Now, one of the biggest issues that we have, and you guys have it worse than I do, I've got a South African problem of people not liking Yappies that much, but they have a greater distrust of people of Asian and Indian and South American people than they do of people who have English as a first language. And so you've got this problem of racism, sexism for the women, sometimes for the men. The whole nationalism thing, if you criticize the country in any way, there's a major problem. And the way to do that is to deliberately establish rapport. And I'm sure you know there are a whole lot of techniques for doing that. But let's not beat around the bush. There will always be racism, sexism, and nationalism, and those sorts of problems. It doesn't matter how blind people swear that it doesn't happen. It happens. We have to deliberately establish rapport. So the rationale for this, as you probably know, is people are racist towards a group, but they find it very difficult to be racist towards an individual if that individual identifies with them. So I come from South Africa, where racism, as you know, is a major problem. There are many people in South Africa that hate people from the other race, except for the friends that they have that are of that race. And they say they're not racist because they have many friends that are of that race, whether it's a white race or an Indian or colored or African, whatever it is in the South African context. And you'll find that, or my view is that if you establish rapport with them one-on-one, you manage to neutralize that racism, and it actually can often help you because they have this generalist idea that everyone from South Africa is a racist, or everyone from India does whatever people feel about everyone from India. If you don't do that, you become quite exceptional in their minds. So I've worked very hard and very successfully at distancing myself from being a South African, and I found it highly, highly effective in them actually talking to me about not wanting to hire South Africans for arrogance reasons or racism reasons or whatever, and forgetting that I'm a South African. So I'll just talk through the common failure modes. If you're serious about getting a job, you have to look at these common things that go wrong and address them. So one of the things that you get is an odor thing. As you know, that is very visceral. Now, I'm sure with most of you guys coming from hot countries, you won't have this, but often you have people from the UK or from Europe that aren't used to showering every day or twice a day and wearing clean clothes every day because their countries are so cold that that they don't need to. As you know, in hot countries that you've come from and from New Zealand when it's hot, everyone is very sensitive and everyone showers at least once a day and puts on cleanly washed clothes every day. One of the difficulties that you might have, I see we've got 10 minutes to go. Let's see if we can get it done by then. One of the difficulties that you might have is food. And I hope you don't think that I'm being un-PC here, but I'm trying to give you anything that can have an impact on it that could make people think you're not their kind of person. So just be careful of eating hot curries and there's South African things that I'd warn people to be careful of, and Italians that have a lot of garlic and that sort of thing. Because odor is such a visceral thing, it's really a good idea not to do that. You guys might not have this, but some people from African countries and from some Eastern European countries, they don't have a big problem with halitosis with bad breath from not cleaning your teeth. But in New Zealand, it's a major issue, so just be careful of that. Obviously, accent, vocabulary, and common sayings are a major thing. I suppose common sayings, these are all not just things that you can get wrong, but you're at great risk of them if they feel that they can't understand you when you answer the questions. Your chances of getting a job are slight. So you've got to work on your accent and your vocabulary, using the Kiwi vocabulary and using common jargon that Kiwis use, because it improves their chances of understanding you. You can imagine if they're afraid, if they don't understand you, they might ask you to repeat it once, but after that they feel that they might offend you by asking for clarity again. So it's a really good idea to really try and slow it down, clarify that you understand the question, don't speak too quickly, try and adapt your accent to make it better, and then use, common vocabulary and sayings. So talking style and speed I mentioned. Respect is quite a major thing. Some people, some Malaysian people, some Indian people, and definitely some African people have often come across too obsequiously, because in their country, because of the caste that they are or the level that they are in the country, they need to bow and scrape quite a lot if they're trying to get a job. Some Chinese people have this issue as well. For Japanese people, it's slightly different. So just make sure that you're calibrating in a way that Kiwis understand as respectful rather than arrogant or too obsequious. Tell me if you don't know what obsequious means. Obviously, the unconfident thing is a problem. Kiwis really don't like unconfident, but the only thing worse than lack of confidence is arrogance. I don't know how much of a problem this is in other countries, but there are two that I know have this problem, and that's South Africa and Russia, of people being very arrogant and patronizing and regarding the company employing them as not following the right process and things like that. I'm sure you guys wouldn't do that, but it's a common one that I find. It's very difficult not to be needy and to act as if you really need them to do you a favor. They're not likely to recommend you talk to anyone or give you a job if you're in that way. Obviously, being salesy, unless you're applying for a sales job, which I don't think any of you are, is a real turnoff in New Zealand land. Overpromising in the same way. There's a feeling that many immigrants will promise anything in order to get the job. So you have to be able to convey to them that it's a really considered opinion, not an overpromise. Really good idea to understand the Kiwi way of conducting the interviews. If you know Kiwi people, it's worth having a chat to them and saying to them, I'm keen to just talk about how you go about doing the interview. How would you answer these questions? And even getting them to do some role plays, number 10 here, to actually practice it with them. We're talking about your life and your career and your family's wealth going forward. You really need to be able to get onto the same page. And this isn't only to get a job or to get a referral, to get advice from someone. It's also to advance yourself through the company. If I was you, number 8, I would build a whole list of Kiwi colloquialisms and practice using them. One of the biggest ones is, we don't know how lucky we are. This is very effective on a whole lot of different levels, but there are many other common Kiwi colloquialisms that you'll come across. Write them down, practice using them in the right context to help. Then you really need to be aware of what's happening within New Zealand. And New Zealand, in my view, has a bigger global interest than many other countries have. So you've got to know what's happening in New Zealand, but also what's happening around the world that New Zealanders are interested in. Because if they ask you, what do you think about the new Prime Minister, and you haven't quite got your head around who the new Prime Minister is yet, it's not going to go well. Anything on that? Okay, last one. So I find that a lot of people start lowering their targets and their expectations after they've failed a few times. If you haven't, I hope you've seen that the approach that I'm taking is quite different. I can tell you that many people that I've helped with or shown this have found it to be, obviously everyone does a lot of the little elements independently, but running it in this way where you're only looking for advice and you're deliberately building trust and that sort of thing, they've found it to be radically different from the way normal people go about it, and very effective. So I hope that you can see that. So just to remind you, if you've started saying, well, I'll get anything, that my view is that it's better to keep pitching for the thing that you really want, or an ideal path to getting it. So my method is work out where you want to be in 5 to 10 years time, find the ideal path to getting that job, which might not be direct, but you've got to get onto a line that is taking you down to that job. If you really have to, you can satisfy the prerequisites independently if you can't do them all in concert. But, for example, you don't have any Kiwi experience. Well, there's good Kiwi experience and there's bad Kiwi experience. If you go and work at McDonald's, that will probably not help you with getting a BA job. In fact, they might think that you're a McDonald's person, not a BA person or a developer or something like that. So just make sure that you're not being trapped. Then one of the big problems that I think all immigrants face, but particularly within New Zealand because of the insecurity significance thing, and that is taking a job at a lower level than you're used to. Now, this is mostly in management, but I found many senior managers that have got a job as a staff member underneath a middle manager and been unable to progress their career because the middle manager is so threatened by their capability. So just be very careful. I think it's a great idea to get a job that will lead to what you want to do, but make sure that you don't get it at such a low level that you can never get to where you want to get to. Okay, so that's us. We have less than a minute to go. Let's just log in again once this closes, and we'll just finish it off with another, with a bit of a discussion and another cut at your strategy. So I'm going to close it now, or it'll close itself.
Gary, while we wait for it to close,
Yep.
I am guilty of everything you've said in the last slide.
Right.
But I have come to a stage where I've exhausted most of the possibilities.
Right.
So I have developed trust. I have got networks.